The video you're about to see I recorded yesterday morning, and while I've been out today doing a little bit of shopping, it occurred to us that not everybody would appreciate some of the language that's used in it, and it was a request. And I know the person who asked us to do this video couldn't give two donkey dicks about how many times the F word or the C word's dropped, but I know that some of you people out there in YouTube land might be a little bit different and you're thinking with that kind of thing. So if the word f or cunt pisses you off, perhaps this isn't for you. I was just about to say good afternoon, but it's 11:42 AM. So good morning. Good morning, Motorsport media, accreditation, acceptance. Something that you want, isn't it? You want to be one of the gilded few, you want to get the magic pass to the inner sanctum, you want to be one of the exalted people who have the opportunity to interact on a professional level with the heroes of motorsport, and you want that accreditation, but it's a ball ache, isn't it? Yeah. So how would you get media accreditation if you're covering racing in the UK? Well, I've got some answers for that, because you might find them a bit of a letdown. There's a couple of simple ideas and examples of things you can do to raise your chances of being accepted. Now, if you've come here for advice on how to become an F1 photographer, then I can and can't help. Ooh, the fuzz have turned up. I'm over here, you cunts. Anyway, if you've looked into going down the F1 route, you might have been told to start at a lower level and work your way up. That bit I can explain, but the steps from there to F1 I can't help there. I mean, I've worked in F1 in the past, not as a photographer in the media, and I've no desire to return as media. I mean, if any of the F1 photographers want to fight on the weekend of the British Grand Prix, or if all of them want to fight, I'll be just up the road at Oulton Park shooting TCR UK, and I will fuck you all up. Anyway, for the most part, because I have a few good friends who cover F1 as media, and they do a fantastic job. Anyway, what's the fuzz doing now? Oh, they're chasing somebody. Is it a shoplifter? The fuzz are doing now. It's the it's the normal people doing a runner and chasing somebody in a car. Ooh, it's all exciting here. And of course the fuzz are standing around doing fuck all. Still standing around doing nothing, looking at me now. I'm doing nothing, fuck off. Anyway, if you're just a hobby photographer, want to chance it, this is the point where you might as well fuck off and watch something else. Because the very first thing to understand before I go any further is you're only getting in there if you're actually working, if you have a legitimate reason to get the pass. So, this isn't a video to give a wave of my magic wand to beat the system. I'm talking more about how the mechanisms work and some friendly advice and examples. And if you notice I said media, not photographers, because today there are, let's say, 3.5 types of media. And I'm really going to fuck off my video-based mates with this one. But here's the thing. There's actually 4 types of media, plus PR. But we'll not talk about those folk today, because sometimes they're your best mates. Sometimes they just have to be destroyed. I just noticed the fuzz are crap at parking. Who the fuck are you looking at? You fucking silly bear. What the fuck? I'm not filming you, you vain twat. Fucking hell. Right, where was I? Yeah, you won't get an opportunity if you're just working for a team or a driver off of social media, as in, like, for your own Instagram profile. That doesn't work, apart from when it does, but I'll get to that later, and that'll probably be even later. But anyway, 4 types of media, as I was saying. There's the journalists, there's photographers, both of them, videographers. You could see I'm that, but I'm a Poundland version. And the social media, who sometimes get in with the video peeps. Like I said, I'd piss off my video mates. And at the moment, those people are almost exclusively accredited through their positions with championships of teams. Almost. You know, you wouldn't believe the amount of begging emails you get from people wanting to shoot for touring car magazine. So can I just say at this point, if you're a photographer looking for a break, don't send emails or messages that slag people off working on pit lane who are wearing a media vest and they've got a phone, for a couple of reasons. First, in effect, if you're messaging me and essentially saying that to give you a job, give us a job. And you're also kind of like saying those people who are me mates are cunts. And the thing is, you get no people on your work in this environment, and across the different strands of media, we become mates and look after each other. So I suppose the lesson we can draw from this is be less twattish. Because it's not the best way to introduce yourself, is it, by calling people's mates twats? And I mean, this actually does happen with emails. I am not fucking kidding. And there's no point asking us for an accreditation letter at the moment anyway, because we've got our team sorted for this year. So secondly, the different strands of media depend on each other, and often those reels on social media, whether you're a fan of that stuff or not, it'll get more eyeballs than the still images that we're shooting. So yeah, they have as much right to be there as the next person. It's one big ecosystem. Stuff's still fucking kicking off. Anyway, there's two types of accreditation. There's that which is trackside and that which isn't. And I'll be frank, in most cases it's easier to get a media pass for a journalist than for a trackside access. But remember, media pass is actually a working tool. You will only get it if you have proof that you have an audience. In simple terms, what you need for that kind of access is a letter from an editor to show that you're working for an outlet that covers the race you're applying for. And if it's an unknown outlet, they will have to provide evidence of reach. In other words, how many people read a website, for example. And they also have to prove that there is regular coverage of that too. Now, that's about it really on the journalist side, but that letter is also needed for the trackside application, along with, depending on circuits, whether it's... Hold on a minute. Yeah, somebody's been shoplifting, I know. Where was I? Yeah, let's think. Anyway, depending on circuit and whether it's video or photography, proof of liability insurance, public liability insurance that is, usually for £5 million in cover is needed. Sometimes it's 10 million. Now that sounds like heavy stuff, but if you're not bundling insurance for your equipment in with that, it's usually well under 100 quid for the year. I think mine for this year was 70 quid, and that's for two photographers on the same cover. It's doubled in the last few years. Greedy folks. But that's the result of living in a capitalist society. It's a different process from track to track and for different championships. British Touring Car Championship, British GT, British Superbikes are all different from the other national racing. Personally, I have no experience with British Superbikes, but I have with British GT and BTCC, obviously. And over the years, a lot of club racing. And there are exceptions. Like earlier I said that those working for drivers and teams and just social media won't get in, and that's not strictly true. But again, that's coming up. Right, applications. At the moment, Knock Hill deal with their own events, including the BTCC. You just need the evidence I've mentioned to apply. They'll send an application form for you to fill in. You email it back with all the correct proof, and they make a decision from there. Bark do the same, dealing with Croft, Thruxton and Pembury. It's just the same process. Silverstone do their own for some things, but not the big things like F1 and MotoGP, and not the small things. If you're doing a club event at Silverstone, it goes through the club. So for example, if it's a BRSCC event, you contact BRSCC. MSV cover the other main tracks. Castlecoombe and Mallory Park have their own deal. With MSV and Silverstone, though, applications go through an online portal, and the others just go through contacting the relevant person at the club or the circuit via email. And if you have questions, email and ask. Simple as that, really. Go at the horse's mouth. If you have compelling extra reason that you think makes a difference, contact the championship organiser or media representative for whichever series you're looking to cover to ask for backing. If you've got something unique to offer, that is. It can sometimes work. And if you get a yes, you also have to sign waivers. And in simple terms, that means once you sign on, if a car comes over the barrier and kills you, your surviving relatives can't sue, unless there's some obvious neglect. And in my time trackside, the neglect that I've seen is from the photographers. Some of the stupid shit I've seen, man. That's a video for another day. I'll not be popular when I post that one. But you know, there's not much more to it than that, in the sense of practical things that you need to prove. And I'm not going to go into massive depth here. But if you just start and you think to yourself, how the hell am I going to get onto that first step? Well, I'm not going to name any names. But I'll quickly tell you some of my mates who've worked their way into the BTCC media, away from the traditional route. And I'll tell you about my way into racing media, because the traditional system doesn't always work. And I'm guessing that if you've got this far, you know the traditional way is to start with grassroots and to work your way up. My route, I first wrote for a couple of websites that went full on while studying a sports journalism degree in my 40s. I've launched a magazine covering national motor racing that has developed over the last 7 years into what we've got now, Touring Car magazine. It's a reader base in the thousands, and in addition a few thousand readers on the website monthly. Good few thousand some months. At first it was a case of getting journalism access to a few meetings. Then when I needed feature photography, I applied for photography accreditation. Essentially, the publication was a success quite quickly. So I got British GT, then British Touring Cars quite quickly within the first year. It's like a good friend of mine, for example, got into BTCC photography, working for a team by attending most rounds of a season as a fan, concentrating on a team that he knew didn't have a full-time photographer of their own. Took lots of fantastic Instagram photos, a few emails offering services, all that. I'm not saying this will work for everyone, but in this case it worked. It included a lot of work, run around to get shots from multiple vantage points, knowing what he needed and what the team would desire. So it's an idea. I'm not saying, I mean, another one of my mates, a chum of mine, it breaks all the rules I've mentioned so far, because it mainly works on social media. By concentrating on a couple of drivers, he got a slot, not trackside, but he gained traction and got more clients in the support championships and then in touring cars. And because he's able to prove huge reach for his work through their socials and some of their official releases, PR releases and whatnot, he's shown that his work has real value for the people he's working for. But for most of the people I know, and I'm talking touring cars here, BTCC, they didn't start there. They had access before that and other types of reasons, journalists or photographers. And that's where the vast majority of media people I know come from. And it's an invaluable place for a few reasons. When you go club racing, for any media slot, go and build those relationships and use it as practice, both in the art of your media and for relationship building. Find drivers who are just stepping into racing. Make the connection. Offer them something different if photos or videos you think. Don't piss on the embedded and contracted people who are working for the championships. Just offer something different. Shoot from a different place from where the official photographer is through a championship. You know what I mean? By that I mean, like, get to know who the photographers are so that you recognise them. If you know if they're shooting that turn one or the last turn, you'd recognise them. Just offer something different. Shoot from a different place on the track from them. Just like say, offer something different. I think most photographers get asked a lot of racetracks how to get started. With cameras and media bibs, we kind of stand out. But when I'm at my local track, Croft, for club races, I tell people, go where we aren't. Clubs and individual championships have their photographers, like I said, but if they're at, like I say, at the first corner, they're not at the chicane, they're not round the back of the track. They, or we, won't catch some of the moments that happen on other parts of the circuit. If you catch a driver making a spectacular save or a brilliant overtaking move, you've got the keys to introduce yourself. On the written side, write, interview, learn. Some people won't like us saying this, but if you set up your own website and buy tickets to get into races, don't be shy in asking drivers for interviews. Even at BTCC level. This isn't Formula 1. That firewall isn't there. Be prepared to have people say no. That's part of the job. You've got to get used to it. Even if they know who you are and who you're writing for, sometimes they'll say no. It's just about understanding the environment and how things work. Now, I've said a couple of times that none of what I've just said matters. How can I put it? As I'm getting warm. The accreditation process states that if you're working commercially for teams of drivers, you're not getting accredited. And when it comes to club racing, even touring cars and British GT, that isn't the case. I mean, even, you know, let's put it this way. If there's a race meeting where there are only 4 or 5 photographers, and it does happen at club level, sometimes they'll allow a few extra people to have accreditation. I've seen it happen at touring cars and British GT, but not all tracks. But there have been times when I've spoken with people trackside at those events who've said specifically there. And as my mum would say, shy Ben's getting out. The worst that can happen when you ask is that they say no. And that's it really. So like, comment, subscribe, all that shite. If there's anything about racing media in the UK you'd like to see a video about, drop it in the comments. And if it's something I can answer, I'll give it a go. If it's not, then I'll try and find out and give it a go. Or, yeah, whatever. What time is it? Aye, like I said, it's morning. It's coming up to lunchtime. I can see Greg's over there. But Greg's is shit. Actually, I go there very occasionally. But if you're up in the northeast, I mean, really in the northeast, people people think, Greg's, Newcastle. Well, the northeast is more than fucking Newcastle, you know. And Dixon's always kicks Greg's square in the motherfucking bollocks. Savloy dip time.